Welcome to Chief Everything Officer, a podcast for entrepreneurs who do it all. We are sponsored by Huntobot, an impact-oriented venture school and studio focused on designing and scaling startup ecosystems for the future.
So, you want to start a business?
This is the first episode in our new podcast series, Chief Everything Officer, which is a podcast for founders who do it all. I'm Christina.
And I'm Devin.
And we're here to help you make your desk a little less messy, even though mine's pretty messy right now. Like a business, we just started a podcast. So if you're trying to think of an idea for your business and you have a bunch of balled up papers with terrible ideas on them, a bunch of unused Word documents that just have tons and tons of text, scribbling, whatever, you're not alone. So Devin, what kind of advice do you tend to give to aspiring founders who want to get started?
So one thing that I always like to tell founders is all great ideas start as a problem to solve. So look for the problem. And the better the understanding of that problem, the better the solution. But even if you have the best idea ever, persistence is key. 40 times. That's how many times Skype pitched their business to investors before an investor was like, okay, I think that's a good idea. Here's some money. What would the world have looked like during COVID if there'd been no video calling? If they'd given up on the 39th time? 350 times. That's the number of times Pandora pitched their music streaming service. One of the, I think the first really successful music streaming services with collaborative filtering and suggestion algorithms. They pitched it 350 times before they got an investment. What would have happened? What would music look like if they'd given up on the 349th, right?
We probably wouldn't even have Spotify.
Yeah. Sergey and Larry Brin, they pitched Google 300 times before somebody was like, that seems like a good idea. Because we got to get, one thing that a lot of listeners might not know is, before Google, there were a bunch of other search engines, and some of them were doing it relatively well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the idea, Yahoo was the big one, was a big player in this field before Google came along.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just didn't seem like a good idea to a lot of investors. But finally, somebody took a chance on them. And now, where are we now? Where would we be without Google, right?
I wonder how the investors that turn them down feel now.
They're very quiet. They are very quiet. Nobody crows about the fact that they passed on Larry and Sergey.
Yeah, often I find like most great ideas that exist today didn't start as great ideas. They often started as bad ones. Even like throughout history, you've seen all kinds of inventors come up with ideas like very, very monumental inventions that have changed everything about our world, like Industrial Revolution type stuff, like Edison with the light bulb. Obviously, everybody, I feel like, has heard this story, but Edison made 1,000 unsuccessful attempts before it finally worked. And you got to wonder what was going through his head for all of the 999 that preceded that, and where he got the inspirations that drove him through all of those attempts. Until it finally worked. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about where to find that special juice of entrepreneurship inspiration, or as I like to call it, Entrepreneurspiration. You're welcome.
Wow. Ouch. I feel like that word is going to be like the word moist. I don't have a problem with the word moist, but people get really upset with the word moist. My wife literally will throw things at me from across the room when I use the word. I just feel like that word is going to be triggering to people. In the comments or on Huntobot, if you're watching this on the Huntobot platform, please, I would like you to comment whether or not you agree with Christina that is a good word, or whether you agree with me that maybe is not the best word. I don't know. I'm not trying to weigh. I'm not trying to put my thumb on the scale at all. I'm going to leave it to the crowd.
So maybe I have bad ideas too.
No. I just hate the word. I don't hate you. I hate the word.
So maybe I need to go through some iterative processes and come up with eventually an entrepreneurial word that will take off. That's not this word, but maybe this is just the first bad idea.
My old boss used to call it words. Like, maybe you should wordsmith that, which was her way of saying,
That's
yeah,
terrible.
this is awful writing, Devin. No, you cannot show this to the public. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, what needs to be wordsmith? All right, so at the part where you say dear so-and-so, and then the part where you say kind regards, everything in between.
Everything else.
Oh, okay, wow. All right.
Start over.
But seriously, starting a business is hard, right? Getting the people to believe in you and your ideas is hard. And there's whole industries around this. So, we're going to try to get real with you and try to help you as a listener think through and hopefully break down some of the things that you might be worried about. But if we miss anything, if we get, because we're doing a whole series here about what your problem is and how to find your personal motivation. And we have a whole bunch of, we're going to be interviewing a whole bunch of really cool people about, where they found their inspiration, what problems they're solving, and how, what their customers want and need and all that. But if we miss stuff, or you want us to focus in on stuff, or you think we've gotten stuff wrong, this is a community. Junto means together. Junto Bot is about community, and we're stronger the stronger the community is. So feed the Junto and let us know where we got it right or where we got it wrong. Seriously.
It's a two-way conversation.
Yeah, it's a two-way conversation. As long as the conversation is nice and not mean, we're always open to that conversation. So
before we begin our discussion, we are going to pause and share a little bit about our company and why we're here.
Cool. Not that I've already done way too much of that.
Yes.
Cool.
Juntoba is a company that focuses on supporting and promoting entrepreneurs regardless of their industry, background, or entrepreneurial phase. We offer e-learning programs to teach skills and prepare future startup founders for the real world. We also host a networking platform where we connect people and entrepreneurs from different industries and communities. Finally, we facilitate an apprentice program where we train individuals and employees in different areas such as marketing. Our goal is to make the world 5% better by enabling entrepreneurs to create businesses for positive impact. So, Devin, you've worked with a crap ton of founders, so you probably know a lot about this. If I wanted to start a business, but I've never done anything like this before, what should I do first?
So everything starts with a problem, right? The problem leads to a big idea, even sometimes a weird one, but it really leads on the power of a great question, right? Amazon was originally an online bookstore, right? A family member who will remain nameless was asked to be a member of Amazon when they first got started, and they were relatively big in the publishing industry, and they were like, not interested in working for these weird dudes doing this small little thing on the internet. Maybe not the best decision of all time at this in thinking back on that, but it's hard to remember a point of time when Amazon was a joke, and something that you would just ignore, because it wasn't a bad decision at the time. It made a complete sense. It was a good decision at the time. A stable business in a stable industry, or these weird dudes with this weird thing that they can't really understand that they named after a river. I don't understand. What are you doing? Right? It makes no sense. And now here we are. Right. So, one of the things I like to think about is that when you look at what that great question that's being solved, Airbnb, the question, what was the question they were looking to solve? What if anyone could open a hotel? Right. What if you never needed your own car? Uber. Right.
Yeah.
Some more historic examples. How can we carry a cow in our pocket? So cows used to be how you traded value. So if I went to the market, I'd bring 5 cows and I would give a cow to somebody else, and I get some eggs, and maybe I get a new plow from the blacksmith, but you traded cows. That's how you traded value. That's where the value was. But I can't carry any cows, but I can only walk one. I have to walk that cow to market. How could I carry a cow in my pocket? That's money. That's a coin that looks like that has a cow on it and signifies everyone's agreed that coin means a cow. right? How do you persuade customers to buy more than they can carry? It used to be you walked into a store, you bought what you could carry,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you've ever been somewhere they didn't have any bags, and they're like, "Do you want a bag?" And you're like, have like 16 things at the 7-Eleven. You're like, yes, I would very much like a bag. You understand how important that bag is to allowing you to purchase more
Mm-hmm.
at their store, right?
Wow, I take grocery bags so for granted. I haven't even thought about that. That's so
Yeah,
funny. I
yeah.
can't
And it's
imagine
like it's
not
one of those
having it.
things like somebody had to invent that at some point in time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think they relied on you bringing your own bag.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Yeah.
it's, all right, well, you only have one bag. Well, then you're only going to buy what goes in that bag. No. We have bags. We can give you 100 bags. You
Mm-hmm.
could buy enough to fill 100 bags. It's okay. We'll take care of the bags. Out of the goodness of our heart. No, out of the goodness of our pocketbook, we want you to buy as
No, I
much as
know.
possible. Right? So, there's all these questions. I mean, like one of my favorite is the one about as NASA was looking they're trying to figure out how to record something in space. How do you record information in space? And so they figure, obviously you need something that writes in space. And so let's use a pencil. Yay, that's problem solved, right? Problem is the graphite was breaking off, and in an environment where there's gravity and that graphite breaks off from the pencil and falls down, a problem. In an environment where the graphite rubbings fall off the paper, they fall to the
Mm-hmm.
ground, and then you vacuum them up or you sweep them up, or but they don't really cause any damage. But in an environment with no gravity, this
How does
graphite
that
was
work?
just
Yeah.
getting in the air filters. The graphite pieces were getting everywhere. The graphite was getting between electrical nodes and electrical circuits and causing electrical problems, causing major problems that build up over time. And so it's not a good answer. And you
Mm-hmm.
think it's the good answer, but the question is something to record information in space. And when they realized that, they developed the Fisher Space Pen, which was the first pen to be able to be developed in space. And I thought that's just really interesting concept of basically understanding the question and understanding what the problem that needs to be solved is we need something that can write in space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the environment that problem resides in changes what that answer is. Because we need something to write on Earth. I've got hundreds of pencils,
Mm-hmm.
right? I love Blackwing. We're not sponsored by Blackwing, but Blackwing, if you want to sponsor us, we will take your sponsors. You can pay us in pencils. I love Blackwing pencils, but I write with pencils all the time. I've got different types of leads. There's stronger, there's lighter, so forth. In space, which I've never been in space, unfortunately, but
Maybe
in
someday.
space, you can't use this, right? And it just seems like something you wouldn't realize. It's like similar to your conversation about the grocery bag. You don't realize it because it's always been you've always been in an environment with
Mm-hmm.
gravity. With no gravity, what does that change?
I think something that's cool to note here is that like how so many of these technological advancements have been the reason for new problems that have been created, but then those have been solved by other things. So Airbnb and Uber are both based on apps, and traditionally you have hotels and inns and like taxis or your horse carts or whatever that take people places and people stay in. But with Airbnb and Uber, those things have allowed anyone to be able to be that for somebody else. And then with the NASA Space Pen, this is only a problem because we've had all these tech advancements that have allowed us to go to space and things like that. So no matter how many things continue being developed, there's always going to be opportunities for another advancement or another problem that you can solve with a business. And I think that's really cool. I think that shouldn't discourage anybody from creating and inventing because there's always more things that you can do. Moore's law.
100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. I mean, that's one of the things when I sold my last business, I couldn't figure out. I knew I needed to solve a problem. I couldn't figure out what problem to solve. So what I decided to do is I went to go work in consulting, because big consulting, Capgemini, Ernst & Young, McKinsey, Boston Consulting Groups, all of these consulting companies, they're embedded in Fortune 500 companies, solving major problems for major companies.
Mm.
And you're churning across multiple companies. You're working with some of the smartest people in the world, looking at problems and identifying problems and how to solve those and understanding the environment of what is the current state, what is the future state, what's blocking you from getting to the current state, the future state. All of those are problems.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave your mind open to those problems, and for me, I found with Huntobot that the problem I wanted to solve was that I hated consulting. I hated teaching Fortune 100 companies how to kill off Fortune 500 companies. Where my love was small business and startups and people who start companies, not the companies that have already figured out how to monopolize and take over the world. They've already taken over the world, and they're now using their power to crush everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in the people who are, a scrappy team of 50 people who are trying to change how people interact with photographs in Instagram before it's bought by Facebook. That type of thing. So, but it's is identifying what that problem is. I mean, for me, it took a path, but you got to figure out what the problem is and figure out whether that problem is worth solving. I mean, one thing that I really annoys me is when I talk to people and I'm like, well, what do you want to do? It's like, I want to create a dating app. I'm like, oh, because nobody solved that problem. There's not like 50 different dating apps. Like, why don't you solve a real problem like gender equity or lack of education or hunger or any of the United Nations Societal Development Goals? They're just like problems that the entire world has that if you figured out a for-profit solution to, you'd be a billionaire, or you can figure out how to get people laid. Your choice. It's like,
So my first exposure to entrepreneurship was a class I took my freshman year of college, just an introductory level class for entrepreneurs. And one of the projects that we had to work on was finding a problem and solving it. And the problem had to be something limited to our college campus, something that we had observed students needed, and something that we could potentially turn into a business for our campus. So the problem that we chose was the problem of students walking to class. And we wanted to create a rideshare app. So it would be tech driven. Students could sign up to be drivers, and people could come get a quick 3-minute drive to their class if they wanted.
So what was the problem? What was the problem you were looking to solve? Were you solving for lazy college students?
Basically.
Or were you solving for fair enough. Enough. But I mean, because like if you look at that problem and you're like, I mean, is the problem that like people are all live off campus is a commuter college, and how do you get to campus is really difficult, or is the campus to say it nicer, is it a convenience issue or is it a logistics issue? You know what I mean? So like I had a team that was college kids, and they were solving the problem of so I worked at a commuter college up in Harlem, and a lot of the classes would be late at night, and the subways where everybody in New York City, everybody travels by subways, but the subways, the 3 subways they had access to get to the school, all opened up into relatively dangerous areas. So these girls were trying to figure out how to make it safer to walk to and from class, to get to and from campus. So they put together a walk buddy system. So similar to the rideshare system, but the solution is, how do we keep people safe?
Okay.
By partnering people with, so like understanding that problem. And like I'm joking about like college kids being lazy, but
it's true.
It's a convenience issue. Then the solution is different than a logistics issue.
Yeah.
Right.
No, definitely a convenience issue. I mean, it's most people live on campus. It's a safe campus. I think the fact of the matter is we're not allowed to have skateboards or anything like that on campus. Some people have scooters, but then you look silly subjectively. So pretty much just a convenience issue. But I do think it is a rigorous school. People are busy with a lot of stuff. Saving that, 10 minutes or whatever, that might be worth it to some people to spend, a couple dollars to get to their class.
So did you guys create the app, or were you just creating the business plan?
We just created a business plan. It was actually like an early on project. Later on in the class, we developed our own individual projects, but this was kind of just an introductory project. So yeah, we didn't actually create the app, but we did find somebody on campus who said he could create an app like that.
Cool.
So yeah.
Groovy. Well, I like that. I it's one of the things I find is that, like, I can't tell you how many people are like, wow, you're so successful. How did you get to be, how have you been successful and become the CEO of Hunterbot immediately overnight? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I've started 5 businesses. I failed at 4th. So like starting over and over and being exposed to this over and over and over and over again and learning bit by bit the right way and the wrong way to do things and make it is so important. So getting that like early entrepreneurship education so that you can bring that into into the next problem you're looking to solve is super important. So that's really cool. So why are you not the CEO of lazyboyridesharing.com?
Probably just because we decided that it wasn't really something worth pursuing because it would be such a micro level like problem limited to a college campus of only like 2,500 kids, and we're all only going to be there for a few years. So it's not, and I actually think they have a little bit of a venture lab competition, and students actually come up with project ideas, business ideas, and actually like compete to get funding for them. So,
Cool.
and some college students actually from my school did come up with a scooter idea called Scooty. You can like pick it up and then leave it somewhere else and someone can use it. So other people have done stuff to try to solve a similar type of problem, but our particular idea was not something that we were really going to pursue.
We're not going to talk about single-sided funnels of innovation when it comes to businesses and what I call predatory businesses like the scooter business in this podcast. We're going to talk about it in a later, but I hate the scooter business model of like, we'll just leave it and we'll just leave trash on your sidewalk and you have to deal with it so that we can make money. I'm like literally my wife has to talk me down off the ledge every time we walk outside and I see a scooter. I'm like,
yeah.
But it's interesting when you talk about the parochial thinking of your product focus. They're like, oh, it's only for this campus. I find that there's 2 sides of that coin. Sometimes I find it can be you can limit yourself by not having done the research to understand. You're not thinking big enough to understand that actually, like if you can find like-minded or we have this college campus. These customers are like X. They have the general shape of X. Then where else? Look at general shape recognition. Where else are X's in the world? Where else could this be applicable? And then apply that everywhere. I mean, Airbnb got its start because they were trying to, like, every time these guys went to a conference, the entire city, all the hotels in the city would be taken over. There'd be no hotel rooms. So you're trying to figure out, do I have any friends whose couch I can crash on? And they're like, what if we turn that into a business? The problem you're solving, like I kind of almost feel like your ride sharing problem could have been expanded out. The other side of the coin, and I call it parochial thinking, is I would get people who'd be like, so what we're going to do is we're going to create Facebook, but for our college. I'm like, okay, so how is that going to be different? It's like, it's going to be purple. I'm like, what? Why purple? Because that's our college colors. It's like, well, what else? How else is it going to be different? It's like, no, that's it. It's going to be purple. It'll be exactly the same thing, but purple. You're like, well, the thing that makes Facebook powerful is that there's like 10 billion people on it.
Yeah.
Like the network effect. You're going to remove the network effect. And they already have this thing called groups where you could, I don't understand what, and they're not thinking about what a unique problem that could be expanded out. So like 2 sides of that coin is like, honestly, your solution could have possibly been expanded, very easily expanded out if you looked at the like-minded consumers. But on the flip side, you look at something like, I mean, I can't tell you how many who rightly are like, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You can't create a Facebook for X college.
But some ideas you can
Yeah,
make them kind of templates, and then you
exactly.
sell it to another school, and then they put their own school's information. Like I know that I'm trying to remember what it's called. Like there's like a program that incoming freshmen can use, an app they can use to get to know other students, and it's an app that's used by all kinds of colleges. They put their own spin on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like ed tech industry is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. So cool.
So Devin, what should we do if we want to get started in starting a business? And what should our listeners do?
So at the risk of sounding self-commercializing, or like we're turning this whole thing into an ad, that's what we do. That's what Huntobot does. We're a community and a platform for universal basic entrepreneurship. So we have specific e-learning modules and classes that we've created to support people on their own time, walking through, understanding, and really digging deep into their problem and identifying it, right? But we're not the only people who are, one of the things I found at the beginning of COVID is that, we started Huntobot with the idea that, oh, we're going to take over the world and we're going to crush every single other entrepreneurship program to be better than every other one. Everyone's going to die and it's just going to be us. And then COVID started happening. A lot of these communities, these entrepreneurship communities, started going out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And I started getting more and more freaked out, because you realize it takes a network, it takes a community of these businesses. There are businesses that are farther along the maturity chain than we are. There are businesses that are earlier than us, like the entrepreneurship program that you went to. There are on the ground communities and meetups in your city that we can't be at. And all of these, there are groups that focus on getting you funding, but don't really give you educational support. There's programs that focus on helping you pitch and learn how to pitch. There's everyone's got their niche, and you got to surround yourself with the intent, right? Find that local entrepreneurship pitch competition, get used to pitching, really refine your business model, your business case, so that you really can, you really know, you have the confidence to be able to burn your ships like Cortez and enter the new world of entrepreneurship with confidence. But surround yourself with the intent and create your community, find your people. I hope you do it on Huntobot, but it's all over the place. I mean, there's great communities everywhere doing great stuff. Just go out there and find them. Do it. So that's my advice.
Cool. And we have a class coming out soon based on how to explain your problem. This is the first class for our Huntobot Venture School.
Yep.
And it's what we call the first step in pitching your startup, learning how to explain your problem, how to define it, how to limit it, how you can trend it with data, come up with the data to back it up, persuade people that it's an actual issue, and then how to inspire confidence in your listeners that you will be motivated to carry it out, and then how to figure out what stakeholders are involved and affected by the problem, and how you're going to help those stakeholders. So,
yeah, and again, join the community, right? Because I find that 60% of the value of this is the community. 40% is the coaching and the e-learning modules and the facilitation of helping you. We're very deliverable driven in what we're doing. That's another thing I would say, is that, like, you can look at all the books behind me, right? You could spend your whole life reading all those books. If you don't do anything with that knowledge, so like what we've tried to do with this class is very specifically get it from, okay, so this is how you define a problem. Now define your problem. This is how you map your stakeholders. Now map your stakeholders. Like, do it, right? So whatever it is, whether you're reading a book, whether you're reading Thiel's 0 to 1, or you're reading Lean Startup, or you're reading, Good to Great, or exponential organizations, or you're listening to Calacanis's This Week in Startups, or whatever it is, or Gary Vee, or whatever your entrepreneurial drug of choice is, act on it. You meet somebody at a meetup, schedule a meeting with them. Don't take their business card. Don't give them your business card. Schedule a meeting. You're going to, you want to start a business? Take our course. Take the class, define the problem, decide whether it's a problem worth solving. Do it, right? Or don't take our course. Read the book and buy the book, read the book, execute on the book. Whatever it is, do it. Don't just read it. Don't just sit back and watch that TED Talk. Oh, that's great. Oh, wow, he's so smart. Oh, yeah, I'll definitely, one of these days I'll eventually. No, do it now. Do it now.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's continue the conversation in the comments or on the Hoontabot platform, which you can find linked in the description of this video. Stay tuned for our next episode, where yours truly, myself, will interview Devin about his company and how he started it, Hoontabot, and go make the world 5% better.